All right, welcome everyone. This is your live chat with Donna and Robin McCormick. I'm Donna Knutson. I am a writing coach and I help people tell their stories. I have been bringing in once a month a speaker to help you understand how to create a team as an author, because a team is the best way to get your book published. So today it's Robin McCormick. I'm going to introduce her. She is the founder and CEO of Quill and Company Publishing. It's a boutique hybrid publishing firm dedicated to helping aspiring authors transform their stories into published works. Quill and Company offers comprehensive services, including writing, coaching, editing, design, and marketing support. Now, Robin's the visionary behind Next Bestseller. That is an innovative book pitch competition to spotlight emerging literary talent. I see we have two authors on here, Chanel and Michelle, so listen up. You may want to enter the Next Bestseller contest. Next Bestseller is soon to become a national literary initiative in partnership with community-based support networks and political backing. And I know we'll talk about this a little bit later, Robin. I'll let you, because you have an event coming up in Laurel very shortly. So, all right. So I want to ask you first to start out, and I know we talked about this a little bit. When you get an author and they don't realize that they need to start right away. How do you have that conversation with them? They're like, no, I want to wait until I'm done and then I'll talk to you.
Yes, that is definitely a thing. I find that a lot of potential clients that I speak with, they feel like they have to have it all done and all together. So what I do at Quill and Company, I help authors where they are. I meet them exactly where they are in their writing journey. A lot of people may be journalers where they've been journaling for years, taking notes. Some may have actually started taking a stab at writing their manuscripts. So and some come to me with just the concept and they're like, I have a great idea for a story, but I just I'm not really a writer per se, but I really have a great message that I want to get out to the world. So wherever they are in their writing journey, and if they've started writing, I usually will say, okay, halt to where you are. Let me see what you've done. Let me hear about your story, what you're trying to accomplish, and I'll meet you right there. I'll help you expand and develop the story. So that's where I usually work with novice writers who are kind of stumbling through the process, but I help them with that wherever they are.
Now, your company also offers them publishing, and that's one of the big mysteries that surrounds the next step. Once you've written, you've got to publish. Tell me a little bit about the different options that people have for publishing.
Sure. So generally, there are three main types of publishing. There's the traditional publishing. The publisher usually covers all the costs, the editing, the design, and the distribution, and they generally pay for the authors their royalties. It's ideal for authors that are seeking wide distribution, but it's highly competitive and it offers less creative control. So that's traditional publishing. Then you have self-publishing, which a lot of newbies usually start with doing. The author takes on all the responsibility and all the cost. This route offers full control and then you get higher royalties, but also it requires the author to manage everything from editing to marketing, just the full gamut of kind of going at it on their own. So that's where I see a lot of people come to me when they're kind of stuck at some of those stages. So then you will have a hybrid publishing company like Quill and Company. It's sort of a blend between both of those types of companies. The author invests up front. They pay for like a dedicated package, but they receive professional support and they get higher royalties. So when I say professional support, like I mentioned before, I generally help them develop that manuscript. So I walk through them with it. I have writing coaches, a writing coaching team that I'll help them to write a really well-crafted manuscript. And then I have a team that takes care of the editing for them. I have cover designers, I have illustrators. So those pieces that they would generally go at it alone, if they're self-publishing, I have a team of people that helps and works with them to accomplish that. Um, and that way, they have a great quality product when they're done. And I also offer the marketing piece in my program. That's the piece that I noticed a lot of people didn't have. If they self-publish and they're looking to get their book out there, I started adding marketing to my packages because that's what they really need. So I tell my clients, I don't just help you write and publish the book and leave you to it. I help you get it out there for those people that you actually wrote it for, put it in the hands of those readers. So that's generally the differences between the types of publishing companies.
Okay, so now if you're going to go in a traditional publishing, you probably need what, an agent and a query letter?
Yes, that would be best if you're looking to go in the traditional route. I would suggest that. That'll help your chances because, like I said, it is very competitive. And if you're going at it for the first time and you're not quite sure how to do it, what the lingo is, and the best route to approach these companies, having an agent, they already have relationships with these publishing companies. So I would definitely suggest that would be your best bet if you choose to go that route.
In publishing, you have what are your options for getting a book to the public? I know a lot of people think Amazon, but there's probably some drawbacks, and there's actually one that the publishers use that you can also use for self-publishing. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so I'll give you some just some brief pros and cons of, let's say, Amazon versus Amazon KDP, that is, versus Ingram Sparks. So Amazon KDP is sort of best for direct to consumer sales on Amazon. They're a higher visibility platform because they are the largest book retailer, on the internet. So if you're looking for people that are looking to go directly to Amazon to purchase books, they're, your best bet if you're looking to put something directly on Amazon for sure. Another plus for Amazon is they're free to use. So a lot of indie authors or self-publishers will go there because it's free, and they'll just kind of take a stab at it themselves because they're not losing anything to go at it that route. And then their royalties are really good. They're generally pretty good for that type of platform. So one of the downfalls for Amazon is they do have limited bookstore distribution, and they're less favorable to libraries. So a lot of the book distributors don't really like Amazon, so they really kind of shy against it. But there are some that are, so you are limited in that regard. Libraries, the same thing. So that's kind of a con of Amazon KDP. Ingram Sparks, it's ideal for wide distribution in the regards that bookstores, libraries, schools, and just many other platforms are very favorable to to Ingram Sparks. Also their pricing, they have a little better pricing, and return options when it comes to like brick and mortar retailers. Ingram Sparks does. They do charge setup fees, but they do offer professional grade distribution. So they have they're really good in that regard. But they're not as visible as Amazon, unless you have like additional optimizations that you can do. But they're very widespread, so they're generally a good fit for someone to go through Ingram Sparks. But just to kind of give you the differences between the two, pros and cons.
So I'm an author, let's say. I have a great idea for my book. I kind of want to get started. Publishing is way down the list. I'm not thinking about that right now, but my friend said I should come talk to you. what am I looking for? Like, what questions do I even need to ask to find, what would a good publisher do for me?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really good question because I get it on both sides of the spectrum. I usually have potential clients that come to me with really great questions, and I can tell they've done their research, or I'll have some that are like, I just don't even know the right questions to ask. So that's when I offer information to them. So for people generally, I would say if you're looking to talk to a publishing company, some good questions for you to ask would be, what services are included in your publishing packages? What specifically do you offer me in your publishing? Do I retain the rights to my book? That's a very popular question that I get a lot. How are royalties structured? How do I get paid for my books? And what platforms, what types of books is there formula for that? They usually ask, what distribution channels do you use? That's a good question. Like we were talking about with Amazon versus Ingram Sparks, you want to know where your book is going to land. Something else that's a good question, what marketing or promotional support do you provide? So like I mentioned before, I found that a lot of people were asking for that. I didn't, in the earlier part of my business, I wasn't offering marketing, but every single person that I talked to asked, I need help with marketing my book. I'm not a marketing guru. They may not even have a website. They may be new on social media. So I found like, what's the point of helping people write and publish their books if they can't get it out there? So I added a marketing team to my program just for that reason. So that's very important. Another question, can I see examples of other authors that you've worked with? I've gotten that before. And I usually will send them to my website. I started to put all my clients on my website so they can look directly at the type of work that I've produced. Children's books, they can see the quality of the illustrations. In my fiction, nonfiction writers, they can download copies directly from my website and purchase copies there, and they can see the quality of the writing. So those are good questions to start with. And then as for the people who don't really know what questions to ask, what I generally give them is your publisher should be saying things like, what is your book about? Tell me about your target audience. Who are you writing it for? What is your goal for publishing? I found a lot of people say they want to leave a legacy to their children, a legacy to their grandkids. You'll be surprised at how many people have said to me, I'm not really looking to be, a bestseller or to make a lot of money off of it. I'm writing it to help people. I'm writing it so that my children can see that I accomplished this thing that I've always talked about. So that's really near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. It's leaving a legacy. And then if profit comes from that, then that's, icing on the cake, of course. Some other questions that a publisher can offer would be, let's say, how involved do you want to be in the publishing process? Because I also offer different packages. I have a ghostwriting package. Some people have a really great story, or they have something technical they want to write, but they're not a writer and they don't have time, but they want to get it out quickly. So I've offered a ghostwriting program for those individuals. So those are just some examples of some questions that are really good on both sides of the spectrum.
Excellent, excellent. Now, we do have some authors in the house today. We have Diane, who's a web designer who loves to work with people who are doing exactly as you said, getting ready to start up and sell a book, and it's kind of overwhelming. I'd love to have some of my authors share what the stumbling points have been when you are faced with, oh my gosh, what do you mean? I have to talk about this? I'm not done. What does that feel like? What comes up for you, and what are you looking for as support?
So I was so focused on writing the manuscript. So I'm just now starting to think about publishing, and I had done a class, a boot camp through Hay House, and they said some of the same I have a question about, they recommended self-publishing and then you can still get picked up by a bigger publisher. Is that a real thing?
I certainly know that it is. There's a young lady, I actually would love to interview her. I'm gonna try and get her first book, she wanted by design to self-publish. She got a team around her. She self-published her first book and it did really well because she was smart. So they actually picked up her first book and her trilogy. They re-edited her original manuscript, reintroduced it with a different title, and then picked up the trilogy from there. The famous one is like The Martian. They made it into a movie with Matt Damon, self-published, picked up by a publisher, so we can always point out the outliers, but it does also happen. I'm sorry, go ahead,
I would
Robin.
agree with that. Yeah, I would say that that's definitely an option for people to do that. But just to warn you to not assume that that is an often option, something that happens a lot. There are outliers, but it is definitely possible. The only thing that I would also give as advice for people who are looking to self-publish, and I say that because I started as a self-published author myself. My very first novel I wrote and I self-published, and I actually started Quill and Company because of that process. As I wrote the book, I had a great idea, I had a great concept. I was like, I'm a good writer, but I don't really know what I'm doing here when it comes to publishing and that part of it. So I stumbled through the process and figured it out. I Googled this and called this person and got a quote on that. And I did it, I published it. But the marketing part of it, the getting it out there, the wide distribution wasn't there. I didn't know what to do. The process of writing it and publishing it was not enjoyable for me because I didn't know what I was doing. It was very frustrating. So I decided once I did it again and got really good at it, I said, hey, let me do it again. People started asking me, well, what did you do during the pandemic? This happened. Everybody was home writing stories, and they're like, well, you know what? Robin wrote and published a book. Let me ask her for some advice. So I started to give away all this advice. And at that point, I had gotten really good at it. And I said, you know what? I was looking to start a business anyway. Let me just start my own publishing company and help people do just that. To be somebody that I wish I had during this process, because I see a lot of self-published books as a publisher. People come to me that have written and self-published, and I can tell by looking at it. I can tell margins are off, the cover is not as crisp and clean as it should be. So, but then you've invested all this time and energy and money into it. So I wanted to create a company that I always say takes the guesswork out of it for people. So you're not having to Google this person, pay this person, and find out they weren't as good as they said they were. Have a one-stop shop for everyone, because I was that author. I was the person that had to go through that, and I didn't want other people to have that experience. So now all my authors have I say I'm in the hand-holding business. I hold their hand through the entire process. So just to give that as a warning to people who are looking to self-publish for the first time, just because it's kind of guessworky and it can be frustrating with that too.
As let's say royalties, that's a big, what is up with royalties? How do you walk an author through that process, and what questions should they be asking their publisher about them?
I do have a formula for my royalties, and I express that to them. It's based on the cost of making the book itself, and then your distribution platform is all factored into that cost. And then they'll know upfront what they'll be getting generally. And I say generally in the front of it, because once you actually produce the book, we don't know how many pages it's going to be. We don't know how many illustrations you may have or how much color to your pages on the front end of it. But we generally have what I call a royalty conversation right before we publish. So you'll know specifically, and we talk about what do we want to price your book at. If we price it, we give it this retail price, this is how much you'll make on it. If we go up a little or down a little, this is how much you'll make. So that this is a conversation that I have with my authors, and we make the decision together on what we think is I'll give some advice on what the market is looking at for your type of book, but we'll actually have that talk about it right before we go to publishing.
What goes into pricing a book?
That's a really great question. And it varies. It varies on the book, the type of book, how many pages are in the book, what the market is going for now. As we see now, the world has gone up on price of everything, the whole world. Everything is expensive. So you want to be able to stay in trend with that as far as pricing your book. Whereas years ago, you may have, you can get a 25-page children's book for less than $10, and that's what was expected. But now even the cost of producing the book has gone up. I know Amazon had just sent out something this month saying if there's anything under $10, we're going up on our price, so you may want to adjust your retail price accordingly. So they're constantly going up, so we would have to go up as well with the retail cost in order to keep up with trend. So generally, when I'm looking at pricing books for my clients, we look at what's out there in your genre, what things are going for, so that you're still right there and you're competitive with everyone else. There's times when you want to be able to price it lower, maybe when you're coming out of the gates and you're getting interest and you want a lot of people interested in purchasing it because it is, but then eventually you want to go right back up there and be competitive with everyone else.
Publishing is the money part of this trip. I'm not saying you're not going to pay your editor, but your editor isn't going to get royalties from what you do. They're not going to get paid every time the book gets printed and purchased. Publishers are in that part of the pricing range. So it's really important for an author to show the publisher how much value your book has. And that's where, like Diane, with your website building, you can help people who are maybe writing a blog or a newsletter or have a Substack following, right? Get a place to look deeper into who you are and what that book might be about and who you are as a person. And then Mike, who helps people with their speaking engagements. You can stand up in front of an entire room. And I know Michelle does a lot of speaking and Maria does as well. That ability to stand up and talk about your book and have them, but Mike says, you don't talk about your book necessarily, you're really selling yourself and the mission, the heart, who you are. But that would be something that he would be teaching, in his coaching, is to how to, when you're done speaking, everybody wants to talk to you, everybody wants your book, they want to go on your website, they want to find out more about you. Making that connection and getting those potential buyers to follow you. That's going to make you more appealing. I imagine if they come to you and they go, I have a book, I have 20,000 followers, that's ringing the bell, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure Mike can attest to this as well. You're not just putting your book out there, the book itself, saying, hey, I wrote a great book, buy me, buy my book. A lot of conversations that I have when I go to expos and things like that, and I'm talking about my authors, I'm talking about them as a person, their stories, why they wrote the book, who they are, because that's why they wrote the book, their message that they want to get out to people. A lot of people are writing stories about their life. I'm finding when I have people come to me and I'm like, hey, tell me about your book. They're saying, well, I want to write about my life's journey. If I had $1 for every time I heard that, I would be a millionaire. But it's important to them because they want it to resonate to other people that are going through that same journey, that problem, that issue, or they want to teach something or prevent someone from going through some kind of hardship. So those stories about the author and who they are very important. Even in my children's authors, my youngest client was 11 years old, and he wrote a book about, he has a stuttering impediment. So the name of his book was called "It's Okay to Be Me." But he's actually went on and branded himself. He has a brand now, and it's called Confident Kids. And he talks about it's okay to be special or unique or have that thing that's just you. So he goes and talks to people on podcasts. He's my, I always call him my rock star client. But he's not afraid to speak to people about himself and his book. But it's really introducing the world to him as an individual, not just about his book.
Another big question that comes up, I think, is how to protect your rights to the story. I believe that every author wants to know how they want as much control as they can have over their material. So what are the conversations that you should be hearing from your publisher when you're having that conversation?
That's a really good one. What I run into a lot is when I'm talking to potential clients, they're very fearful to share their information to me because they're afraid that if they tell me their stories, or they tell me too much about it, or even if they share some of it, I may take it and do something else with it. So and it's happened to them before. So it's a true fear because it has happened. I had someone say that they talked to someone about their book. They had a great idea. They sent them their entire manuscript with nothing in writing, but just sent it for them. And they decided they weren't going to go with them. Some publishing company. Come years later, they found that there was a movie or a show that was out, and it resembled exactly what this author had written, and they were very, very upset about it. They still wanted to write their story and write their book, but it was really difficult to get her to be trusting of me. So what I would suggest, and what I always put all my clients at ease by saying is, before you send me anything, I need you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. And it protects both of us, so that I'm saying that when I review your material or your concept, I'm not to use it for anything other than that. And the same for them. When they send me their material, they're not to go off and make another deal with another publisher. We're in this agreement together, and it's to be used just for that. So I would definitely say, please don't send your entire manuscript to anybody that you've just met for the first time without something in writing to protect yourself.
When you send a query letter to like the big publishing house because you want them to take you on, you're going to do three different things for them. You're going to tell them a summary of your book. You're going to tell them who your competition is. These are the other books that do what my book does. Here's how I'm different. And then if it's they generally want a chapter by chapter synopsis. Some places will want you to send 3 chapters. Some places will want you to send the whole thing. They're only going to read the first 2 or 3 chapters. It really kind of depends upon who you're dealing with. But what I can tell you for a fact is if the query letter says send X, don't send Y. If you don't send them exactly what they asked for, they're not going to accept or look at your document. So you can be careful about that. And there are a lot of other ways before you send something out that you can make sure that you've got, I mean, if you send a document out, you've basically got a digital document that was sent on a particular date. So there are lots of ways. In the old days, we used to mail it to ourselves. Put it in it, go to the post office, have them seal that thing up, put the stamp on it, then mail it to yourself. And then you have it enclosed showing the date that it was completed. So there are lots of different ways to do that. And I want to get to Mike had a great comment because I wasn't actually saying it quite as well as I should have. And it says here, it's not about the book. It's about your career as an author. We're talking about your speaking. When you're speaking to the world, you're letting them know your story and how that changes people's lives. You're gonna change mindsets around a topic that you're passionate about. You could talk about that all day long because it's not what's in the chapter one of your book. So if chapter one of your book changes, it's not gonna change that main mission. So that's why you can start talking right now before you're done, because you're not handing them out a chapter by chapter, here's what's in the book. That's not what's coming. But even if you did that, you're gonna edit it, so people can be on that journey with you, and you can ask them for feedback, and they can tell you what they like and they don't like. All of that also cements that it's your material, because you have this whole chain of you talking about your material. So there are many different ways to get in there and engage people, and have them being a part of selling your book as well. And then I know we're coming to the end, so before we get done, I just want to make sure, does anyone have any questions that they want to ask about finding a publisher? She's given us just a really great list of questions to ask. Is there anything else top of mind that you want to ask before we close up today?
I have one.
Yes, please.
Um, if I'm selling my book through a platform like Amazon, how can an author keep track of how many books are being sold?
There is a way that you can keep track of the books sold. Amazon actually has reports that they generate. So you can go into their your desktop and what is it called? Not the desktop, your bookshelf, I think it is. But there's
Dashboard.
Dashboard, yes. There's there's tabs in there that will let you see your sales month by month, year to date, just different variations of that. And then you can see your ebook sales, you can see your paperback, and it breaks it down into whatever type of book that you have out there, and use that as your way of tracking how many you're selling. And it also shows you which countries that they're selling in as well.
Okay, thank you.
You want to talk a little bit as we finish up here about your next bestseller pitch competition?
So I've partnered with the city of Laurel, their mayor's office, and their city council's office. And I have put out this book pitch competition where local authors can come with just the concept or the idea of the book and pitch it to a panel of judges. And it's sort of I always say it's American Idol meets Shark Tank, but for books. So I started on the local level, and the Mayor Keith Sidnor, he has a current initiative. He's really active with the children and education in his community. So this is an extension of his initiative. I've opened it, I say, from as young as 10 to as old as 110. You can apply for this competition. It's free. They started with a tryout phase where they're in front of the judges and they're pitching their ideas, and the judges give them feedback. Then we did cuts, and then now they've moved to the contestants are in round one now. So they're fine tuning their pitches, and I've partnered all the contestants in teams, and I've partnered them with mentors to help them. That's why I said, Mike, I could have used you, because now I need mentors to help them pitch better. But it's not too late, because we're doing this now, right now in the county, but we're looking to do another city moving forward in the state of Maryland, and then eventually on a national level. So at the end of all of this, there'll be a finale, a grand event where, and as they're going through these rounds, the audience will be voting for them to move from round to round, because those are the readers of the book. We want to know who actually wants to see this book come to fruition, because those are the people who they're writing it for. So the audience will be voting them through the rounds. The major finale, the same thing. We'll find out who the winner is at the end. The winner will get a free publishing deal with Quill and Company. We'll help them actually write the book. We'll help them publish it, market it. They'll go on a national book tour. We have sponsors for these this individual. They'll have book launch parties in local bookstores. It's a whole shebang that's going to be thrown at this one author. So, but in the process, we're also going to be offering help to all the contestants that have gone through the competition, because they have a story. They say they have a story they want to share. So we want to offer those opportunities that Quill and Company has to those contestants to write and publish their books as well. Not for free, but the winner will get the full gamut. So we're going to do this again in another city. We're looking for other mayors right now that are looking to host this event in their city. So if there's any mayors out there that are interested, we're looking for a host city next to go to. But eventually, wherever you are, we're going to make it to your state and do the same thing over and over. But it's all in the spirit of increasing literacy in our communities and getting people excited about reading and writing books. And like I said, as young as 10, as old as 110, everybody has a story to share. So we're helping people do just that.
All right, thank you all so much for coming. I hope that this was informational for you. Got some good tips, some great questions to ask different publishers as you go out there and you're asking questions and trying to find out what is going on. I am always taking suggestions about who else you would like to hear from in these chats. I have some more coming up, so check out my website and you'll see who's next up.